So, do you have any walk-up music? Got any walk-up music in life? Walk-up music is a little snippet of musical introduction. We see it oftentimes in baseball or in wrestling or in politics, right? You know, it's a little song when a baseball player is walking up the plate or the pitcher's come into the mound. It's a little song when a wrestler's, a boxer's entering the ring, or, a song when, a politician is coming up, to the podium. I think it was Robin Williams. It was like, "Hail to the chief, he's the one we all say hail to." Those aren't the words, but it sounds fun. We know what it means, though. We know this walk-up music sense. We've seen it, and the question is, where did it come from? Where did it start? Well, my guess is that way back even with Adam and Eve, when they first started humming, probably there was some kind of musical introduction, even in the garden. Something kind of walk-up music existed then. But particularly when it comes to something like baseball, people think, well, it probably started with Ricky Vaughn and Wild Thing. But actually, it goes farther back than that, maybe even to 1970. That's when Nancy Faust was hired to be the organist of the Chicago Cubs baseball team. And it wasn't long after that she got there that she started playing little ditties that she felt like matched up to the players when they came up to the plate. So walk-up music is not something new. It's something that's been around for a while. I was in a little text group with some friends. A couple of us in that text group are pastors. And the discussion was talking about how a pastor should have walk-up music. And that wasn't me. I wasn't saying that. It was one of our non-pastor friends. And he was like, "Hey, maybe you guys should have some walk-up music." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "It should just be like what Mike Tyson, the boxer, used to do, because it was just one note. So it was just boom. I mean, so intimidating." So I don't know. Emily, Stacy, maybe just give me one note one Sunday. Some of y'all may not know this, but there was a Sunday before church, or did it happen during church? I can't remember. Maybe it happened during church. But the title of my sermon one Sunday was "Hold On Loosely," which is a rock song in reality. And I jokingly said something to Stacy. I was like, "Hey," I said, "let that be my walk-up music today." And Stacy immediately played it on the organ. I mean, like, didn't even take a breath, and just like, wow. So I can't remember if we did that before or during it. Either way, it's kind of fun. Walk-up music. It's kind of fun. We all have our favorite athlete or entertainer or even politician that we've seen. Hey, that's their little song they come up to. But there was a moment in history where the greatest walk-up music ever occurred. What was that moment in history, and what does it have to do with you? Well, we continue our series Above All, where we are engaging with a kind of confidence that can change your life in any given moment. No matter what's happening around you, no matter what situation you're in, this is a kind of confidence that can change that moment for you. And what kind of confidence is that? Well, let's see if we can find out together. We're going to be looking in the Old Testament today, and the Bible book known as Isaiah. 739 years before Jesus was born, Isaiah is having an amazing experience. It's something that's supernatural. It's a vision. And it's a vision that changed his life, and it's a vision that can change your life even now as we think through it today. Today's message is called Above All Armies, and we're going to pick up with what Isaiah saw starting in verse 2. Isaiah writes, "Seraphim were standing above him." So Isaiah is having this supernatural vision of God. This isn't like some random vision saying, "Hey, Isaiah, you should send money to the Jerry Lee Farnsworth television ministry." It's not something random. It's not something goofy. This is the one true sovereign God allowing Isaiah to catch just a glimpse of his glory and his majesty. Isaiah saw God high and lofty and exalted. Verse 1 tells us that he saw God on a throne in a temple, and the train of his robe filled the temple. In other words, there is no king or queen or president or pastor or preacher or person like this: there is no one who has or ever will compare to God. He alone is God, and God alone. And standing above God, Isaiah said he saw seraphim. What in the world is that? Well, it's the plural of seraph, more than one seraph. So what's a seraph? Well, a seraph is a burning, fiery, radiant, angelic being. We don't know a whole lot about them, but they're not the kind of person that you would run into on Saturday morning buying donuts at the Double K Ranch. This is different. These beings are beyond anything that we can imagine. And we don't know a whole lot about them, which is kind of cool because there's some mystery in their majesty. What we do know about them is they're not fluffy porcelain figures that you put on your bathroom counter. They are angelic, but they aren't little angels. In fact, the picture that we have in Scripture is they're the kind of things, the kind of beings that would scare the living daylights out of us. Or as philosopher J.L. Lewis would say, goodness gracious, they were great balls of fire. They were beyond comprehension. One commentator noted that the seraphim were brilliant as flaming fire, symbolic of the purity and power of the heavenly court. Brilliant purity, brilliant perfection, brilliant power. These were the images of the seraphim, the images that were displaying the one who sits on the throne of the greatest court in the universe. This is what Isaiah was seeing. Listen, your favorite candidate, your favorite coach, your favorite athlete, your favorite singer, your favorite pastor, your favorite preacher, your favorite person is not brilliant in purity, brilliant in perfection, and brilliant in power. Only God and God alone. And how brilliant is God? Listen as Isaiah continues to describe the scene. The seraphim, each having 6 wings, with 2 each covered his face, and with 2 each covered his feet, and with 2 each flew. So the seraphim were not these little, prehistoric 6-winged little insects. They were burning, flaming, radiant, angelic beings with imposing wings. 6 of them. So what are the first 2 wings doing? Well, it says here that the first 2 wings were covering their faces. Why? Someone said that the brilliance of the purity and perfection and power of God was so intense. The brilliance of God was so intense that even the seraphim that were made to always be in the presence of God, they could not stand the brilliance. It was too amazing. So even they had to cover their face, so to speak, cover their eyes, so to speak. Listen, no one you know, no one you will ever know is like that. There's no one brilliant like that. Only God and God alone. What about the second 2 wings? Well, the second set of wings were covering their feet. The Bible gives the historical account of Moses standing in front of a burning bush hearing from God, and the bush was never consumed. And in that account, it says that Moses had to take his shoes off. Why? Well, it's a sign of humility. It was Moses' understanding that he was a created being in the presence of the Creator. He knew that he was in the glow of the Creator. He was in the presence of God. Likewise, in a similar way, we see the wings of the seraphim covering their feet as a sign of humility, this understanding that they were created beings in the presence and the glow of the Creator. They were in holy air. They were in the presence of God. And what about that third set of wings? Well, with the third set of wings, they were flying. Look, these seraphim, they weren't waiters. They weren't hanging around the throne and running off to get God, some Hot Pockets and Capri Sun if he was hungry or thirsty. These were radiant, burning, flaming, angelic beings hovering, flying above the glow of the one true Creator in all of his brilliance. And why? Why were these seraphim there? Why were they floating around and hovering around the throne of God? Or maybe what I should say, why are they flying and hovering around the throne of God even in this moment? Well, have you ever noticed how some entertainers, celebrities, athletes, politicians, they'll have an entourage, They'll have a group of people around them that are holding the door for them, or, holding an umbrella over their head, or holding back the paparazzi, or, holding their lattes while they put a leash on their chihuahuas. We always see these little entourages, right? These little entourages of people protecting and serving and taking care of. Well, in a similar way, we have the seraphim surrounding God as an entourage, but he doesn't need protecting, right? He doesn't need protection. And he, with brilliant purity, perfection, and power, spoke the world into existence, so he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need anybody to hold anything for him. So what are the seraphim doing? Why are they there? Isaiah tells us, listen, verse 3. And one called out to another. So they're calling out. That's what they're doing. They're not just hovering. They're calling out. There's action. Something's happening. Back in my college days when I was a cheerleader, there were times at home football games where I would grab the microphone, and along with my fellow cheerleaders, we would begin a cheer that involved the entire stadium, right? Like one side of the stadium sometime in these cheers would say one word, and the other side of the stadium would say another word. Every high school, every college in the world has a cheer like this. And one side says their thing, the other side says their thing, and it goes back and forth, and it keeps going, but eventually it stops, right? Either we quit leading the cheer, or people were heading out for nachos and Carolina Pride hot dogs, and they just quit cheering, right? They were just done. But the cheer didn't keep going. It stopped. It didn't go on forever. Listen, the cheers in heaven never stop. It never stops. The glory and the praise, the message of the seraphim, it never stops. They never stop hovering. They never stop flying. They never stop praising God. No team gets that. No famous person on a concert tour all over the world gets that. No politician gets that. Eventually, cheers end, right? Either the person's not elected to office again, or the concert is over, or the team loses. So the cheers stop. So if we are just looking for the applause of this world, we will be disappointed. But if we are connected to the one where the cheers never end, where the praise never ends, where the applause never ends, well, that changes things. The praise of the one true God never ends. The cheers never stop. He never loses. Why? Because he's brilliant. He's brilliant in purity. He's brilliant in perfection. He's brilliant in power. I've shared these words from A.W. Pink before. Being infinitely elevated above the highest creature, he is the Most High, Lord of heaven and earth, subject to none, influenced by none, absolutely independent. God does as he pleases, only as he pleases, always as he pleases. None can thwart him, none can hinder him. Listen closely. Whether it's the promise of making things great again, or whether it's the problem of freedom and never going back, Every plan of every person on this planet can be thwarted and hindered. Every plan. But not God. God's plans cannot end. There is no person who is infinitely elevated above all creature, only God and God alone. And if that is true, which it is, and you're a Christian, that should create confidence. We should have great confidence in knowing that this is our God. So, question for your heart and mind, do you have that confidence? The kind of confidence that if your candidate loses or your team loses, if your finances fail, if your health fails, the kind of confidence that continues to let you know that you belong to one whose plans will never be thwarted and he will never be hindered. That matters. That matters. Listen, I don't know what kind of season in life you're in right now. I am, without a doubt, in the most stressful season of life I've ever had. Ever. And it never stops. It never lets up, you know. I think last Wednesday night from 8 o'clock at night till Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, I had 49 text messages, you know. And guess what? None of those text messages was, hey, do you have any Grey Poupon I can borrow? No, it was all heavy stuff, you know. Well, one of them was a text group that was silly stuff. That was only like 10 texts. So it was 39. I had 39 different texts, you know. I mean, it took me a couple of hours just to read the text and try to respond quickly. And you know what happens when you respond to a text? They respond back. And it keeps going and you never get free. I'm immensely stressed. Now, before you start thinking I'm going to the restaurant, you know, pity party of one, I'm not, you know, I'm not. But life is stressful and life is hard. And so I need this. I need you this morning. I need the church. I need believers. I need to know that there are Christians all over the world not wasting their time this morning. That there are other people gathering together and trying to find the confidence in our God. This matters. Listen, I do not profess to be a follower of Jesus so I can keep my job at a church. I don't profess to be a follower of Jesus just as some kind of spiritual, emotional crutch when life gets hard and stressful. I profess to be a follower of Jesus because of what we sang a little while ago. Listen to it again. Old Chuck Wesley, he got it good. Long my imprisoned spirit lay, fast bound in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused a quickening ray. I woke, the dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off. My heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee. Can I just hurt some of our feelings? I know some of y'all, when we were singing that hymn, were like, man, this is hard to sing. Okay, I'm with you. I got it. And you know what? Great. You know, every now and then, let's sing a hard song. It ain't going to kill us, all right? But those words, boy, it matters. In the middle of my stress, knowing that I have the confidence to know that my chains have fallen off and my heart is free, that matters. That matters. It matters when I'm at the doctor. It matters when I'm in traffic. It matters when I'm voting. It matters that my chains fell off and my heart was free. I profess to be a follower of Jesus Christ because my chains have fallen off. And so what? That sounds great in a song, but what does it mean? This is what it means. The next verse. No condemnation now I dread. Anybody feeling condemnation from your spouse this morning? Anybody feeling condemnation from a parent today? A grandparent? a teacher, a coach? Anybody feeling condemnation from a neighbor or a friend? Anybody feeling condemnation from yourself as you look in the mirror? In Jesus Christ, these words from Charles Wesley are always true. No condemnation now I dread. I'm no longer condemned in my sin. And he goes on. Jesus and all in him is mine. Alive in him, my living head, and clothed in righteousness divine. Bold I approach the eternal throne and claim the crown through Christ my own. Bold. I was in the back, in the dark, underneath the balcony, and I was like, bold I approach. Man, I was like, yeah. But see, we're tempted to not want to jump out of our pew on a song like that. We're just sometimes tempted to jump out of our pew on the nice, cool, new song. Listen, that's a jump out of your pew line. Bold I approach the eternal throne. When my candidate loses, when my team loses, when my finances fail, when my health fails, I still can boldly go to the throne of God and claim my everlasting crown. Why? Because I'm a great South Carolina boy. No. I am able to boldly go to the throne of God because Jesus Christ, through his birth and life and death, ascension and promised return, has made me his own. I am his and he is mine. My chains have fallen off. That's why I profess to follow Jesus. It does not get me ahead in life. It gets me ahead in glory. It matters. This seraphim stuff, it matters. There is a confidence not in myself, but a confidence in the one who loved me and gave himself up for me. A confidence in the one who sits at the right hand of God right now as the seraphim are hovering and calling out to one another. And what are they calling out? What are they saying? Isaiah tells us, verse 3, and one called out to another and said, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of armies. Holy, holy, holy. As R.C. Sproul used to say, other. There's no one like God. He is the greatest other in the universe. There's no one like him. He is intimately elevated above all creatures, and he is the most high God. There is no other. He is the Lord of hosts. He is the Lord of armies. He is, by default, the Lord of every army. Any army. Anywhere in the world, anytime past, present, and future, God is more powerful than those armies. Why? Because he's brilliant in purity, he's brilliant in perfection, and he's brilliant in power. It's who he is. It's the character, and his character has never changed. What will you say when you stand before the Lord of armies? Now notice I said, when. Every human being, past, present, or future, will stand before the one who is holy, holy, holy. Will stand before the one true God on the one true throne, the Lord of armies. And they will hear one of two things: depart from me or welcome home. Which one will you hear? Jesus said, if you do not turn and follow him, then welcome will not be what you hear. So if you have never repented of your sin and turned to Jesus today, now, this is a great moment to do that. Not just to be rescued, but to have the confidence that your chains have fallen off. And that confidence changes everything. The Bible says that every human being, past, present, and future, will stand before God, and they'll all speak. Well, what will you say David Mathis said this: "No one else wields the authority of our God. No one else commands the host of heaven. No one else makes kings bow down. Not just some kings, but one day soon all kings. No one else can make darkness itself tremble with a whisper." What's the darkest moment you've had this week? What's the darkest moment you've had in life? Only God can make darkness itself tremble with a whisper. No other glory is like his. No other deserves such praise. No other splendor outshines the sun. No other beauty, no other power, no other name is like his, consuming like fire, raising the dead, unshakably triumphant. And then he says this: "But if here in the presence of God we are able to utter one word of praise, we do have something to say, and say again and again and again." And what is it we have to say? Holy, holy, holy. Those three words are not just a grand old hymn. They are three words that create the kind of brilliant, flaming, radiant confidence that cannot be explained. Holy, holy, holy. The greatest walk-up music ever. So here's the question for you and for your heart. Have you heard the music?